The warning lights flickered across Marcus Sterling's control panel as his research vessel spiraled through Nyxera's atmosphere. The archaeological survey had gone terribly wrong when his ship's core malfunctioned, leaving him with only one option, an emergency landing on this unexplored world. "Computer, give me landing coordinates," Marcus commanded, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. The response came back garbled, but clear enough to understand. He was heading for a clearing in what appeared to be a dense forest. The ship groaned under the atmospheric pressure, its hull heating to dangerous levels. Marcus had studied countless alien civilizations during his career as a space archaeologist, but he never expected to make first contact quite like this. As the ground rushed up to meet him, he caught glimpses of crystalline structures rising through the canopy, signs of intelligent life. The impact came hard and fast. Metal screamed against Earth as the ship carved a deep trench through the alien soil. When the world stopped spinning, Marcus found himself hanging upside down in his harness, blood trickling from a cut above his eye. He released the restraints and dropped to what was now the ceiling of his inverted ship. The emergency lights cast an eerie red glow through the smoke-filled cabin. As he gathered his emergency supplies, a soft humming sound reached his ears. Something was approaching the crash site. Marcus retrieved his universal translator and research tablet before forcing open the emergency hatch. The air that rushed in was surprisingly breathable, sweet with an unfamiliar floral scent. As he climbed out of the wreckage, he found himself surrounded by tall, willowy figures. They were humanoid, but clearly alien. Their skin seemed to shimmer with bioluminescence in various pastel hues. All appeared female, with graceful features and eyes that glowed like distant stars. Their clothing appeared to be made from living material, shifting and flowing with their movements. One of them stepped forward, her skin a pale lavender color. She spoke, and Marcus's translator began processing the complex harmonics of their language. "I am Nyra, first speaker of the Lumini," the device translated. "You have crashed in our sacred grove." Marcus raised his hands in a universal gesture of peace. "I am Marcus Sterling, a researcher from Earth. My ship malfunctioned. I mean no harm to your people or your sacred places." Nyra's head tilted slightly, her luminescent eyes studying him with obvious curiosity. "A male," she said, speaking to her companions. "We haven't seen one of those in many cycles." The revelation hit Marcus like a second crash landing. He was apparently the only male being in the vicinity. The other Lumini whispered among themselves, their bioluminescence pulsing with what his xenobiology training suggested was excitement. "You are injured," Nyra observed, approaching him with fluid grace. She reached out, her fingers emitting a soft glow as they touched his forehead. The pain from his cut immediately began to fade. "Thank you," Marcus said, trying to maintain his professional composure despite his growing fascination with their abilities. "I need to assess the damage to my ship and send a distress signal." Nyra's expression shifted to what appeared to be amusement. "Your ship will not fly again, Marcus Sterling. And our planet's magnetic field prevents any signals from reaching space. You are, as we say in our tongue, embraced by Nyxera's wings." The other Lumini moved closer, their curious gazes making Marcus increasingly aware of his unique position. One of them, her skin a soft azure color, spoke up. "I am Zara, keeper of histories. Your arrival was foretold in our ancient songs, a sky-fallen male who would bring change to our world." Marcus's scientific mind immediately began analyzing the implications. A society of apparently all-female beings, with prophetic traditions and advanced biological capabilities. This was the kind of discovery that could redefine human understanding of alien civilizations, if he could ever report it. "How long until another ship might pass close enough to detect me?" he asked, already suspecting the answer. "The great dance of the stars suggests 10 cycles, Nyra replied. "What you might call years." 10 years. The number echoed in Marcus's mind as he looked at the curious faces surrounding him. A decade among these fascinating beings would be both an anthropologist's dream and an incredible challenge to his objectivity. Then I hope, he said carefully, that you'll allow me to learn about your people during my stay. I am a student of cultures, and yours seems remarkable. Naira's bioluminescence brightened slightly, apparently their equivalent of a smile. We would be honored to share our knowledge with you, Marcus Sterling. And perhaps, she added, her glow pulsing in what he would later learn was a sign of mischief, you might share some of your male wisdom with us. As the Lumini led him toward their crystal city, Marcus couldn't help but wonder what he'd gotten himself into. His crash landing had turned into first contact with an advanced civilization, and he was about to become the only male in a society of bioluminescent women. Whatever happened next would certainly be unprecedented in the field of xenoarchaeology. The crystal spires of the Lumini city rose before them, catching the light of Nyxera's twin suns and fracturing it into rainbow patterns. Marcus squared his shoulders and followed his guides, ready to begin what would undoubtedly be the most extraordinary research opportunity of his career, assuming he could maintain scientific objectivity in such unusual circumstances. The crystal city of the Lumini defied everything Marcus knew about architectural physics. Towers of living crystal grew from the ground like trees, their surfaces pulsing with the same bioluminescence as their creators. His temporary quarters, provided by Naira, sat near the heart of the city in what they called the Knowledge Spire. Your amazement is quite entertaining, said Lyria, a Lumini scholar with seafoam-colored skin who had been assigned to study him as he studied them. She sat cross-legged on a cushion of what appeared to be living moss, her glow reflecting off the crystalline walls. Everything here challenges my understanding of science, Marcus admitted, documenting the room's self-adjusting temperature in his tablet. Your civilization has achieved perfect harmony with biological technology. And your civilization builds machines separate from life, Lyria observed. Fascinating but wasteful. Why create new things when you can grow them? 3 weeks had passed since his crash landing, and Marcus found himself increasingly drawn into the intricacies of Lumini society. Their civilization operated on principles entirely different from human ones. They didn't just live with nature, they were part of it. A soft chime resonated through the crystal walls, signaling the evening gathering. Marcus followed Lyria to the central chamber, where dozens of Lumini assembled for their daily communion. Their combined bioluminescence created patterns of light that told stories and shared emotions. Naira, as first speaker, stood in the center of the chamber. Tonight, she announced, we welcome Marcus to his first light sharing. Her glow pulsed with warm colors that made Marcus's heart race unexpectedly. The ritual began with each Lumini releasing spores of light into the air. The spores danced and swirled, creating three-dimensional images that depicted their daily experiences and emotions. Marcus watched in awe as the story of his crash landing played out in sparkling detail above their heads. We would be honored if you would share your thoughts, Zara said, approaching him with a small crystal vial. These essence drops will allow you to participate temporarily in our communion. Marcus hesitated only briefly before accepting the vial. As a researcher, he knew the importance of participating in cultural rituals. The liquid tasted like starlight, if starlight had a taste, and suddenly his consciousness expanded. He could feel the emotions of every Lumini in the room, their curiosity about him, their excitement at sharing their culture, and something else, something warmer that made him blush. His own thoughts manifested as golden sparks in the air, showing images of Earth and his life as a researcher. Your mind shines beautifully, Naira commented, her own light synchronizing with his projected thoughts. For a being without natural luminescence, you adapt well to our ways. The evening progressed into what the Lumini called a celebration of understanding. They danced in spiral patterns, their lights creating aurora-like displays above them. Marcus found himself drawn into their movements, guided by Naira and Lyria. Your presence changes the harmony, Zara observed during a quiet moment. We haven't had male energy in our light sharing for generations. It intensifies the experience. Marcus tried to maintain his professional detachment, but the intimacy of sharing thoughts and emotions made it increasingly difficult. He found himself particularly aware of Naira's presence, the way her lavender glow seemed to reach out to him during the dances. Later that night, unable to sleep, Marcus stood on his quarter's crystal balcony. The city below pulsed with gentle light, like a galaxy of earthbound stars. Lyria joined him, her seafoam luminescence subdued in what he'd learned was a sign of deep thought. "You're wondering about our prophecy," she said, not a question but a statement. "About the sky-fallen male who would bring change." "I'm wondering about a lot of things," Marcus admitted. "Your society challenges everything I thought I knew about gender dynamics, technology, even consciousness itself." Lyria's glow rippled with amusement. "And we find your singular presence equally challenging. Our histories speak of a time when we had males among us, before the Great Transformation. Some say your arrival marks the beginning of another change." "What kind of change?" Marcus asked, both the scientist and the man in him curious about the answer. "That depends on the choices we make," she replied cryptically. Her glow pulsed once, then stabilized. "Naira has taken a particular interest in your adjustment to our ways." Marcus felt his face warm at the mention of the first speaker. "She's been very helpful in my research." "Is that what you call the way your thoughts shine when she's near?" Lyria teased, her bioluminescence flickering with mirth. "Even without the essence drops, we can see the patterns of your emotions, Marcus Sterling." Before he could formulate a properly professional response, a deep tremor shook the crystal spire. Warning lights flashed through the city, not the gentle communication pulses he'd grown accustomed to, but sharp, urgent flares. "The Shadowborn," Lyria whispered, her glow dimming with fear. "They've returned." Marcus looked to the horizon where dark shapes moved against the starlight. His crash landing, it seemed, had coincided with more than just an ancient prophecy. As alarm crystals chimed throughout the city, he realized his anthropological observations were about to become far more complicated. The next morning would bring revelations about the true nature of his arrival and the role he would play in the Luminized struggle. But for now, watching the approaching darkness, Marcus could only wonder how his presence might affect the balance of this strange new world he found himself in. The Shadowborn attack changed everything. Marcus stood in the council chamber of the Crystal Spire, watching as Naira and the other Lumini leaders debated their response. The dark creatures had taken 3 outlying crystal farms before being repelled by the city's light barriers. "They've never attacked with such coordination," Naira said, her lavender glow pulsing with concern. "Something has changed in their behavior." "Perhaps it's no coincidence they appeared just after him," said Venna, a crimson-hued elder whose light flickered with suspicion as she gestured toward Marcus. Her words caused a ripple of worried luminescence through the chamber. "I assure you, I had nothing to do with Marcus began, but Naira raised her hand, silencing him with a gentle pulse of light. "The prophecy speaks of change," she reminded the council. "Change brings disruption before harmony. Marcus's arrival and the Shadowborn's attack are connected, yes, but not in the way you fear, Venna." Lyria, who had been studying ancient crystal records, stepped forward. "I found something," she announced, her seafoam glow brightening with excitement. "The last recorded male presence among the Lumini coincides with the last major Shadowborn defeat, over 1,000 cycles ago." Marcus felt the weight of every glowing eye in the chamber. "What exactly are these Shadowborn?" he asked. "I need to understand what we're dealing with." Zara, the keeper of histories, projected a light pattern that formed into shadowy shapes. "They are our opposite, creatures of void that feed on light and life. They were created during the same cataclysm that led to our transformation into an all-female species. Our ancestors tampering with the planet's core energy created both our bioluminescence and the Shadowborn's darkness," Naira explained. "We learned to live in harmony with the light, while they became consumed by darkness." As Marcus processed this information, another tremor shook the city. The warning crystals flashed again, but this time, Marcus noticed something different in the pattern. During his weeks of research, he'd learned to read basic Lumini light communications. "Wait," he said, moving to the chamber's crystal wall. "These energy signatures, they're not random attacks. The Shadowborn are following the planet's natural energy lines." Lyria quickly projected a map of the Crystal City and its surroundings. Marcus pointed to specific points where the attacks had occurred. "Here, here, and here, they're targeting nodes where your crystal structures tap into the planet's core energy." Naira's glow brightened with understanding. "They're trying to disrupt our connection to the planet's light." "If they succeed," Venna added, her crimson light dimming with worry, "our entire civilization could go dark." Marcus pulled out his research tablet, bringing up his analysis of Lumini technology. "Your crystal structures act as amplifiers for your natural bioluminescence. But what if we could modify them to create a different kind of light?" "What do you mean?" Naira moved closer, her light synchronizing with his excitement. "On Earth, we have something called electromagnetic pulse weapons. If we could adapt your crystals to emit a similar burst of concentrated light energy." Lyria's glow pulsed with sudden realization. "The prophecy speaks of marriage between star and stone, perhaps this is what it meant. Your science combined with our natural abilities." The council chamber erupted in a cascade of colored light as the Lumini discussed this possibility. Marcus found himself drawn into rapid exchanges with Lyria and several other scholars, his scientific knowledge merging with their intuitive understanding of crystal technology. As they worked, Marcus became increasingly aware of Naira's presence beside him. Her lavender light seemed to dance with his ideas, enhancing and refining them. The connection between them had grown stronger since the light-sharing ceremony, and now, working together to save her people, he felt it more powerfully than ever. "We'll need to modify the central crystal spire," he explained, trying to focus on the technical aspects rather than the way Naira's light made his heart race. "It can serve as a focal point for the pulse. Such a modification would require direct connection to the crystal's core," Venna warned. "Only those who share the crystal's resonance can achieve such a bond." "Then I will do it," Naira declared. "As first speaker, my connection to the crystals is strongest." "You can't do it alone," Marcus said, meeting her glowing eyes. "The energy required, you'll need an anchor, someone to help stabilize the power flow." "It would have to be you," Lyria interjected. "Your unique energy signature, different from ours but compatible, it's why the prophecy led you here." Another tremor rocked the chamber, stronger than before. Through the crystal walls, they could see dark shapes moving closer to the city's outer barriers. The Shadowborn were gathering for a larger assault. "We have no choice," Naira decided. "Marcus and I will attempt the modification. Lyria, gather the crystal scholars. Zara, prepare the ancient binding rituals. Venna, organize our light weavers for defense." As the council dispersed, Naira turned to Marcus. Her lavender glow softened, becoming more personal than professional. "Are you certain about this? The binding ritual, it creates a permanent connection between participants." Marcus thought about his crash landing, about the weeks he'd spent learning the Lumini ways, about the growing feelings he could no longer dismiss as mere scientific interest. "I'm certain," he said quietly. "Whatever happens, we face it together." The crystal spire hummed with preparation as night fell. Tomorrow, they would attempt something unprecedented, a fusion of human science and Lumini crystal technology. As Marcus reviewed the calculations one final time, he realized that his crash landing hadn't been an accident after all. Something larger had drawn him to this world of light and crystal, to these remarkable beings, to Naira. The question was, would their combined strength be enough to drive back the darkness? The binding ritual chamber pulsed with ancient power. Marcus stood opposite Naira in a circle of crystal formations, their surfaces etched with luminescent patterns that spiraled up into the darkness above. Around them, 12 Lumini elders maintained a steady harmonic hum that made the very air vibrate. "The binding has not been attempted with an off-worlder in all our history," Zara explained as she placed crystalline markers around them. Your physical form must be temporarily altered to channel our light. Marcus nodded, trying to steady his nerves. He wore only a simple robe made of living crystal fibers, his skin already beginning to tingle from exposure to the concentrated light energy. Across from him, Naira's lavender glow seemed to reach out, seeking connection. Begin the convergence, Vena commanded, her crimson light pulsing in rhythm with the humming crystals. Lyria approached with a crystal vessel containing the same essence drops from the light-sharing ceremony, but far more concentrated. This will open your consciousness fully to our light, she told Marcus. There can be no barriers between you and Naira during the binding. As Marcus drank the essence, his perception began to shift dramatically. The world dissolved into pure light and energy. He could see the flowing patterns of power that connected every crystal, every lamini, to the planet's core. Most brilliantly of all, he could see Naira's true form, a being of pure light and consciousness. Join your lights, Zara instructed, her voice seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere. Marcus reached out, both physically and mentally, to Naira. Their hands met in the center of the circle, and the contact sent a surge of energy through them both. He felt her consciousness merge with his, memories and emotions flowing between them like light through crystal. He saw her childhood, learning to control her luminescence. She experienced his years of studying ancient civilizations, his passion for understanding other cultures. Their shared curiosity and desire for knowledge created resonant harmonies in the light around them. The binding accepts their compatibility, Vena announced, her crimson glow brightening. Proceed to the deep merger. The crystal formations around them began to pulse more intensely. Marcus felt his physical form becoming less solid, more like the light-based existence of the lamini. Naira's consciousness guided him through the transformation, her presence both passionate and tender. I never expected to find such harmony with an off-worlder, her thoughts whispered through their connection. Your light calls to mine, Marcus Sterling. And yours to mine, he responded silently, letting go of his last reservations. This was far beyond scientific observation now, he was becoming part of something profound and beautiful. The merger deepened. Marcus felt his consciousness expanding to encompass the crystal spire itself. Through his connection with Naira, he could sense every energy flow, every light pattern in the vast structure. Together, they began the modifications he had designed, their combined understanding allowing them to reshape the crystal's internal matrix. Suddenly, a violent tremor shook the chamber. Through their expanded awareness, they felt the Shadowborn launching a massive assault on the city's barriers. Dark energy began seeping through weak points, threatening to corrupt the crystal structures. We must complete the binding now. Zara shouted over the rumbling. Their connection to the spire is our only hope. Marcus and Naira's merged consciousness focused on the task, their shared light burning brighter than ever. The modified crystal matrix began to pulse with new energy, not just lamini light, but a hybrid form incorporating principles of human electromagnetic theory. Through their bond, Marcus felt Naira's fear for her people, her determination to protect them, and something else, a deep, personal love for him that had grown since his arrival. He responded with his own feelings, letting her see how completely she had transformed his understanding of not just science, but life itself. The binding is complete, Vena declared as the crystal formations reached peak luminescence. They are one with the spire and each other. Marcus and Naira stood transformed, his skin now held a faint luminescent glow, while her light had taken on a more focused, concentrated quality. Their physical forms remained distinct, but their energies were permanently intertwined. The Shadowborn breached the outer barriers, came a cry from outside. They approached the central spire. Through their new connection to the crystal technology, Marcus and Naira could sense the dark entities surging toward them. But now they had a weapon, their merged understanding of light, energy, and consciousness itself. Are you ready? Naira's thoughts touched his mind, full of trust and affection. Marcus squeezed her hand, their combined glow brightening. Together, he replied, both aloud and through their bond. As the Shadowborn closed in, Marcus and Naira prepared to unleash their hybrid light weapon. The fate of the Lamini civilization rested on this moment, this unprecedented fusion of human science and alien spirituality, of logical analysis and intuitive light shaping. The crystal spire hummed with power, awaiting their command. The darkness pressed against the final barriers, hungry for the light it sought to extinguish. But in the binding chamber, two beings from different worlds stood united, their love and determination burning brighter than any darkness could challenge. The final battle for Nixera was about to begin. The crystal spire blazed with unprecedented power as Marcus and Naira channeled their combined energy through its modified structure. The Shadowborn surged against the city's final barriers, their dark essence seeking to corrupt the light that sustained the Lamini civilization. Now. Naira's voice echoed through their shared consciousness. Together, they initiated the pulse sequence they had designed, human electromagnetic principles amplified by Lamini crystal technology. The first wave of energy burst forth from the spire in an expanding sphere of pure light. Where it touched the Shadowborn, their darkness shattered, unable to maintain cohesion against this new form of radiance. The hybrid light wasn't just pushing them back, it was transforming them. Through their merged awareness, Marcus and Naira watched in amazement as the Shadowborn began to change. The dark entities weren't being destroyed, but rather restored to their original form, beings of balanced light and shadow that had existed before the ancient cataclysm. The prophecy, Zara gasped, her historian's knowledge providing insight. It wasn't about defeating the darkness, it was about healing the divide. Marcus felt Naira's joy surge through their connection as understanding dawned. The presence of his male energy, combined with Lamini light manipulation, had created something that could bridge the gap between light and shadow, just as he had bridged the gap between human and Lamini. The transformed beings began to emit their own soft luminescence, though different from the Lumini's, more like twilight than pure light. One of them approached the crystal spire, its form shimmering between light and shadow. We remember now, it communicated in pulses of dusky light. Before the sundering, we were one people. The cataclysm split us into extremes, you of pure light, us of pure darkness. Naira stepped forward, her hand still clasped with Marcus's. Then let us remember together. There is room in our city for twilight as well as light. The integration of the transformed Shadowborn into Lamini society began immediately. Crystal structures that had once channeled only light were modified to accommodate the full spectrum of energy. The city took on new colors and patterns, more complex and beautiful than before. Months passed, and the success of their hybrid technology spread to other Lamini cities across Nixera. Marcus and Naira traveled together, teaching others the principles of their merged science and helping to establish new communities where all forms of energy could coexist. During a quiet evening in their chamber in the central spire, Marcus reflected on how far they had come. His skin now held a permanent luminescent sheen, while Naira had developed the ability to focus her light into more precise, scientific applications. Your rescue ship will be able to detect us soon, Naira said, her light pulsing with mixed emotions. Now that we've stabilized the planet's magnetic field. Marcus smiled, drawing her close. I'm not going anywhere. My work, my heart, my future, they're all here now. Besides, we have so much more to discover together. Lyria burst into their chamber, her seafoam glow bright with excitement. The first hybrid child has been born. A natural merger of light and shadow energies. The news spread quickly through the city. This birth represented something unprecedented, proof that the different forms of energy could not only coexist but create something new together. Years passed, and Marcus watched as the civilization he had crashed into transformed into something extraordinary. The Luminite Twilight Society became known throughout the galaxy as a place of unique harmony, where science and spirituality, light and shadow, male and female energies all contributed to a greater whole. He and Naira had 3 children of their own, 2 daughters and a son, each with the ability to manipulate both light and electromagnetic energy. They became the first of a new generation of teachers, helping others understand the importance of balance and integration. On the 10th anniversary of his crash landing, Marcus stood with Naira on their crystal balcony, watching the city's lights dance with shadow in perfect harmony. Their combined glow created patterns that told the story of their journey, from suspicion to trust, from difference to unity, from crash landing to lasting love. The old prophecy called you the sky-fallen male who would bring change, Naira mused, her light synchronizing with his as it always did now. But it didn't mention you would also bring love. Marcus pulled her close, their energies merging in the familiar way that still filled him with wonder. Sometimes the greatest discoveries are the ones we never expected to make. Below them, the crystal city pulsed with life and light, shadow and science, a testament to what was possible when different worlds came together. His crashed ship, now preserved as a historical monument, served as a reminder that sometimes the most profound journeys begin with what appears to be an accident. What shall we discover next? Naira asked, her light sparkling with the curiosity that had first drawn them together. Marcus smiled, feeling the endless possibilities flowing through their shared connection. Whatever it is, we'll discover it together. And so, a simple archaeological survey that had gone wrong became the foundation of a new civilization, a love story written in light and shadow, and proof that the greatest human trait isn't just adaptability or intelligence, but the capacity to find beauty in the unexpected and love in the unknown.